Hey, this is Jack, and this video is called Why Does My Husband Hate Me? Hey, if you're new to the channel or you haven't yet subscribed, I want to encourage you, let's do this. Click that subscribe button and then tap the bell notification so you hear of new videos as soon as they come out. My name is Jack Butler, I'm a relationship coach, and I release at least 2 new videos every week on personal growth and relationships. And hey, if you haven't yet taken my free webinar, it's called The 3 Keys to Being Relationship Ready, How to Attract and Keep Mr. Right. I'd love for you to be there with us. You can just click the first link that you see beneath this video and find a time that works for you in your time zone. The webinar's been getting rave reviews, and I promise you it'll be some of the best investment of 90 minutes of your time. So do it, and I will see you there. All right, so let's talk about this. I want to say, if you are into this question, right, why does my husband hate me? I want you firstly to know that you're not alone, right? I know because I look at search terms, this is a super common search. So there's a lot of people that are having this experience. And my job in this video, obviously I don't know the particularities of your situation, and I want to start with a caveat. Nothing that I say in this video is about encouraging you to stay in an ongoingly abusive relationship. None of this is about you getting treated badly. But what I do want to do is just offer you a few possibilities about what could be going on in this situation in case there's something in your thinking or perspective that can be shifted in a way that serves you. That's my intention for this video, is to get you more of what you want, which is probably something like a better relationship or more connection, or at least more peace and equanimity and understanding about what's happening in your relationship. So I'm pretty sure if you hang out to the end of this video, you're going to get that. So let's talk about this. So one of the things that I want to start with is to actually give you a little bit of a different perspective on hate, right? In our culture, let's say Western culture, kind of rightly, we take hate very seriously, right? And we go after haters and we tell people not to hate. And of course, it's a really strong reason for that, because there's a relationship between someone ongoingly hating a particular group or way of life and problems in the real world, right? Violence, hate crimes, this kind of thing. So I absolutely get that. If we're doing deeper inner work, though, one of the things we might want to realize is that there are experiences that a lot of us have that, even though it's not particularly socially acceptable at large at culture to talk about them, that we might still be having a particular experience. So I want to put to you that it could be that you and I at times, and this could be super, super rarely, or it could be very, very subtle, that there are times that we might have an experience of hatred, of really not liking something. And just to unpack that a little bit more and to not make it quite so scary a thing, what hatred normally is an experience of powerlessness. If you think about it, when you were young, right, maybe there was someone you hated at times when you were young. Maybe it was a parent or an aunt or uncle or the boy across the road. Normally, check this out for yourself, that probably came from a sense of, there's something you're doing that I don't like and that I feel kind of powerless to change it. Right? There's another strategy that we can take when we feel like we've got some power to change a situation. Often we might get angry, right? We might say, hey, stop doing this. This isn't right. But when you're in a relationship with a parent, there's an asymmetry. There's a differential level of power in that relationship. And so at times, some of us sulked in our bedrooms and we're like, I hate my parents, right? I can even remember times when I was a kid fantasizing about me being an adult and being strong and being big and the things that I'd be able to do when I was big and strong, and the people that I could stand up to. I really remember those thoughts clearly. And you might have had something similar than that. Now, this is true also in adult life. There are situations, you can have them at work, you can have them in a relationship, where you feel powerless, right? And you might objectively be powerless. There are plenty of situations, try going through an immigration control and having your own view of how it's going to go. If they don't want to let you in or they want to interrogate you, that's completely their right, and you're kind of powerless to some extent in that situation. Right? So I'm just inviting the possibility that there's a relationship between powerlessness and hatred. So could it be, if you were accurate, and the moment I'm supposing that you're accurate, and I'm also going to look at you might be inaccurate, but let's say you're accurate, that there are at times ways that your husband is having some hatred in your direction. It could be because there are ways that he is experiencing himself as powerless. Even if you experience him as very powerful, right? Because what someone projects out into the world and what their inner experience are can be very different things. And they can also be domain specific. Someone can be super powerful in their career or in their expression or in their ability to make money or their ability to charm people. but that doesn't necessarily mean they feel powerful in every context. And a lot of times as men in relationship, we can feel confused. We don't really get you. We don't really know what's going on. We don't know why you're so disappointed with us. We don't know why you're being so difficult or dramatic with us. And sometimes over time, that can lead to a very deep and real sense of powerlessness in a guy. And again, I'm not exonerating bad behavior from men. Let me just be clear about that. But I am saying there might be a place in you that could find some compassion, perhaps for his experience, that maybe he's powerless in ways that you don't even realize, or you don't even know what it's like to be a guy feeling powerless in those situations. And that there's some relationship between that and feeling like, I don't like you, or I don't want the things that are happening in this relationship. Now, it's easier for you to be with that experience of maybe he has some hatred, maybe, if you can also be in relationship with that in yourself, right? And this is where deeper inner work comes in, because when we really pull back the hood, we get under the onion, layers of the onion, we realize like, yeah, at times I may have an experience that I feel really powerless. And I may not go around saying hateful things to people, but let's just say I had access to your inner dialogue. Maybe sometimes you beat up on yourself in a slightly hateful way. Maybe sometimes you beat up on other people in your internal dialogue. Maybe you make snide comments or remarks internally or externally. These are all shades of the same experience of, I feel powerless, I don't get the ability to influence you, so I'm now going to go to a slightly darker place and I'll be snide, or I'll internally make you wrong, or I'll wish you weren't here, or I'll wish you were different, or I wish I never met you, or I wish I never married you. These are all kind of part of this same continuum of an experience of, I don't really like what's going on, I don't feel I can get angry and powerful to change it, and I actually start to go cold, right? The hatred, when you look at it, is almost a coldness or an indifference to yourself or to someone else. And again, if you can notice, I'm not saying this is even a big part of your experience, but just a minute part of your experience, that if you can open to the idea, if it's true, I'm not saying it's true, but if it were true that this is part of your experience, it makes it easier for you to be less afraid of that experience in other people, right? I'm basically saying if you could have ruthless self-awareness and honesty, you might notice that there are a few things in yourself, even if you express them very differently, that may not be wholesale different than some of the things that you're experiencing from him. All right, that's just a little bit of a digging into, if we really allow and admit our deeper experience, which is part of the spiritual path for a lot of us, then we might have to admit some things that, we're kind of dark in certain places, or we kind of run sick and habitual thought patterns, or we kind of beat up on people in our head, even while we're smiling at them, right? And you might think, well, there's nothing wrong with that. That's just what I do. That's the way of getting on. But if we really kind of put the microscope on that, there's probably a form of powerlessness or darkness or hate or snideness that is the core of that. You just have never thought of it that way, right? So this could be shocking what I'm saying to you right now. You don't have to buy it. I'm just saying try it on for size. Now, I want to distinguish that there could also be something else going on, right? There could be a way that you are subjectifying your husband, right? It could mean that if you were doing the behaviors that you see in him, and let's just say you're seeing his behavior accurately, maybe he's being withdrawn, right? Maybe you feel like he's ignoring you. Maybe you feel like he's not talking with you. That if you were doing that to him, it would mean something different than the way that he's doing that to you, right? It might not be that he's being heart open and connected to you. That might be true. But it might be that if he's man caving up, or he's taking time out, or he's pulling away from the relationship, or he's withdrawing, he may be in a defense. He may be in some need for some restoration. He may be just doing a thing that men, not just men, but often men do, called I'm pulling away. And that's just part of his cycle. It doesn't mean that he hates you, right? So there might be some ways that you're saying, wow, if I did the things that he did, I would kind of be really pissed, upset, or hateful of someone. So I'm assuming that that's what he's doing. And I'm inviting a little bit of a space of interpretation to say, is that actually true? Or is it that you're subjectifying him? You're imagining that he's doing things from the same cause and motivation that you would be doing. And typically, that's not true, right? That's not, only is that not true of men and women, but that's actually not true of a lot of situations. And if you can learn to relax a little bit on thinking you know the motivation or reason that someone does something and imagining that it might be so different than you get a lot more peace and freedom in life. And you also get a lot more ability to see more objectively what's going on, because it's almost like you get you and your script a little bit out of the way, and now you get to see more clearly. So you might have heard this. It's kind of like an old adage, right? There's a man and a woman in a car driving. And if the woman is not talking to the man, it normally means something, right? It means either that she doesn't like him, or that she's upset with him, or she doesn't feel safe with him. But if the man is not talking to the woman, it doesn't actually mean anything. It could be that he's working on some problem. It could be that he's just not that talkative. It could be all sorts of things. Now, this is gross orienting generalization. Of course, it could be that you're driving and you're like, yeah, we've just had an argument and my husband's completely withdrawn from me. That could be true. But I'm just putting that out there again as just a way of looking at this, that sometimes men behave in ways that you imagine it's because they really don't like you, or they disapprove of you, or they're really upset with you, or they really hate you, which is a strong word to use, and that may not actually be the thing going on. So I'm inviting maximum curiosity, minimum assumption. Maximum curiosity. I'm curious. There's a beast over there. There's a dude, and I don't really know what's going on with him, and I feel a bit afraid right now. He feels cold to me. He feels indifferent. I don't feel his kindness. I don't feel his compassion. I'm kind of afraid. I'm kind of on eggshells. I don't really know what's going on. I feel confused, right? That could be part of your experience. And let's also invite some compassion that there's a guy over there. There's a complex human being that may not know how to communicate what he needs, may not have the ability to understand you, right? For a lot of men, understanding women is about the hardest thing that they do in their lives. Because often your way of being, your way of looking at the world, your way of making meaning, your way of making requests, your way of making decisions, your emotions, your emotional reactivity, all these things might not make much sense to him. And he's quite used to making sense of the world. He kind of, you think traditionally the role of the father, part of the role of the father is about giving a map of the world. Like, hey, here, child, here's what the world is. Here's how it works. Most guys have probably, in most times of their life, somewhat functioning map of the world. It may or may not have a huge amount of truth in it, but they have that map. And they know what's going on, and they know why A causes B, right? The kind of engineering brain, the science brain, the cause and effect. The male, rational, logical brain often has a huge, hard time understanding what is going on in a relationship and why he's creating so many problems that he doesn't even know that he's creating, or why he's creating them, or why you can't just sit down and talk to him normally like his guy friends are. Now, of course, more and more of us are waking up, and we're also waking up to the beauty of the challenge of understanding each other. But at times, if you've had a hard week and you're stressed at work and your guy's dynamic is difficult, he's not going to want to be in that with you. He's going to want to switch off. And you may experience that as cold and indifferent, and even like, wow, why does my husband hate me? He may not hate you. He may just be really confused by you. He may be really exasperated. He may feel really inadequate, right? He may feel like he's showing up in the way that he knows how, even if it doesn't look like showing up at all to you. He may be showing up in his own world, making effort, trying, or even just working really hard in his work, and kind of feels like he wants you to give him a break or cut him some slack, and yet you're on his case. That might be his experience. And you might be like, well, of course I'm on his case, because he doesn't do this, he doesn't meet my needs, all sorts of things. But in that space, if we just get on his side of the fence, he might be having a hard time. And when a guy's having a hard time, when a guy is stressed, when a guy is confused, when a guy is racked by doubt, you're probably not going to experience him as warm and gooey. You're not going to experience him as kind and compassionate. You're probably going to experience him as shut down. You're probably going to experience him as withdrawn. You're probably going to experience him as neglectful. You're probably going to experience him as self-absorbed, right? And again, I'm not saying that that's great. I'm just saying the reality is that all men will find themselves, most all men, will find themselves in that place at some point. Now, if you guys are having a difficult time in a relationship, it might be that you're finding yourself at that point a lot. And that's part of the core dynamic, is he's shut down to you. And you feel neglected and unattended to and unappreciated. And if you're having that experience, I'm sorry, I get it. That can be really tough. But that might be a different thing than that he actually hates you, right? Now, another piece of this is the core drive of the masculine, right? If you were the guy that has a masculine essence, probably his highest value, or really close up there, is going to be freedom, right? Most men want to feel free. Most men want to empty. Most men want to have a breakthrough into an experience of deeper peace, void, and freedom, right? That's why they watch sports. They like that moment of like touchdown, breakthrough, knockout. I sometimes surprise myself how I find myself watching mixed martial arts, something I've never partaken in, never really had any time for watching boxing. But actually there's something about that kind of core, we don't know how this is going to go, edge and breakthrough into freedom that I think my system likes, right? Most men have some version of that. Now, if you guys are having a difficult time, or if he doesn't understand you, or if you're disconnected, or if you're creating what we could call negative emotion, right? Which in his world he'd experience as drama. Like maybe you guys aren't connected, so you're doing things to try and create more connection. Maybe you're creating, you're getting upset with him, or maybe you're really trying to get noticed by him or have him attend to you. A lot of guys find that experience of what they would call drama really difficult, even if you would call it not that. If they're having the experience of that, that's really hard for them. So all of this is to say, you could be unwittingly, unknowingly, standing in the position of you are now the prime obstacle to his freedom. Now, of course, in the immature masculine, we tend to see relationship that way, right? These terrible phrases, if you will, things like, for my wife, the ball and chain, right? The ball and chain. That just gives you an imagery of what the core experience of the immature masculine is, of like, you're now the main obstacle to his freedom. And most guys want to feel free, and they don't want to feel like you're his mom. Right? They don't want to feel like you're constraining him, controlling him, being demanding of him, telling him what to do. So most guys can, if they're not careful about it, get into an experience of relationship where you're now the barrier to his freedom. So of course he may be cold with you, or maybe not heart open to you, and you're experiencing that as he hates you. It might just be true to say that he might need to update his experience of freedom, and you might need to get more aligned with that. And there may be some work for you guys to do there. If you find yourself in that position, again, I'm sorry, that can be hard, because you might be like, wow, I so show up for this guy, and he now experiences me as the barrier to his freedom. Now, here's the hope, right? In the more integrated, mature masculine, you start to get that freedom isn't about freedom of constraint. Freedom happens through constraints. And of course, in any healthy relationship, there are constraints, right? Monogamy is a constraint, but it's a good one. And a more mature masculine can get aligned with that, doesn't just see you as the barrier to his freedom, sees you as part of the commitments that he's taken on in his life to be more full and expressed in who he really is. But sometimes that's not always there. And sometimes even a mature guy, if you guys have been having a hard enough time and you're disconnected or rupturing, or he's experiencing you as dramatic, or you guys are arguing, he might have the experience of, wow, I really just want to be more free than this. And he's looking at you and saying, you're the problem, you're the barrier. Right? Now, again, ideally, you guys can mutually influence each other. You can talk through problems. You can work through conflict. But no relationship probably that's worth its salt has that every moment of every time. So I'm just saying that could be a little bit of a part of his experience. And what he may just be experiencing as, I'm not creating problems for you, right? I'm kind of leaving you alone, which is often what a guy wants, right? When he's stressed, he wants to be left alone and not have problems. You probably don't want that. You probably experience being left alone and not having problems as, I feel lonely, I feel disconnected, I feel unloved, right? So if you're having that experience, maybe just notice, oh, I'm having the experience of I feel unloved and unwanted, and I don't necessarily need to make that into, well, why does he hate me, right? Maybe there's a little bit of a space in there that you can own your experience more deeply and actually notice, wow, when I feel unloved and unwanted, right? Which might be because he is being unloving and unwanting, but it might also be that there's a place, a site in me that can land where I'm not loving myself, or I'm not wanting myself. Like the experience of feeling unloved and unwanted kind of spins me out. And now I'm in my own pattern of maybe I have some self-loathing, right? It's another form of hatred. Maybe I'm hating on myself. Maybe my inner critic is really beating up on me, and I don't like that experience, and I don't have it when I feel him being loving towards me. But when I feel him close to me, I actually can easily spin out into this experience. Now, again, this may or may not be true for you. I'm just giving you a bit of a menu to say there could be a lot more going on here than just simply your husband hates you, right? It could be that there are areas of development for you. There could be perspectives that you could be in. There could be things that you call him into that can actually make this a more wholesome situation, and that's really my hope and prayer in making this video for you. So I would love to hear what your experience is of this. You don't need to agree with me. Questions and comments below the video. I'd love to hear your experience. And if you haven't taken my webinar, I'd love for you to click the link below this video, find a time that works for you in your time zone. It'll be 90 minutes, some of the best investment of your time. I look forward to seeing you there. And as always, I'm Jack. Thanks for being here.